Hello and welcome everyone to another episode. Yes, so we need to get rid of our first satellite here, and then we need to do a burn to get this thing to 35 degrees, which shouldn't be so hard. I mean, right now we're really not lacking on fuel. I'll turn off the RCS, and yeah, we don't need to go that way. We probably gotta go this way. That I think this way is going to be perfect. I think I'm just going to leave. I did not make any changes to the orbit. I was going to, but at the end of the day, you know, I really do honestly think that this is the best I'm going to get. It really isn't going to change so much. I mean, if anything really does change, I mean, I really hope it's pretty well lined up as it is. I mean, it doesn't look that bad to me, because if you look at the line and you know, you compare it to the planet, it's almost like a straight cut through, and that's kind of a bad judgment in any way to say, okay, well, it looks pretty straight, because it probably isn't in any kind of way, but whatever. Anyways, we're going to get rid of our first satellite here, and then we're going to start our burn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip down here and get rid of the satellite, and then I'm going to flip back up. That way we don't run into the satellite or anything. Even though this thing is probably going to bump into the spacecraft in some kind of way, shape, or form, because it always does. I've had a little bit of problems with these things. And near the end of the video, we'll check out my other... near the end of the video, we'll check out the Moon satellite network. So we got rid of our first one. We got 3 to go. Now this is going to be a little bit complicated, guys. So for those of you who aren't very skilled with this game, as far as like being able to do, you know, basically anything, as far as like satellite networks and, you know, things of that sort, it is fairly complicated. I'm going to say that. It's not an easy thing to just pull off. So I just want you guys to know that this isn't something that just is something that you can just pick up really quickly, because you have to know how to do the maneuver nodes fairly well in order to understand all of this and understand what you're basically doing, and you have to do a lot of work with your ascending and descending nodes. So my first one, I'm going to go up to 35 degrees. So what ends up happening is, as you use this ascending node, because you're changing your inclination, what ends up happening is it will end up pushing you way out like that, which you don't want. So you're going to end up pulling back like this, but then if you look, this has been changed. And I just happened to get lucky and it fell on 35 degrees. Now, this doesn't need to be perfect. I should mention that as well. It doesn't need to be dead on 500 or anything like that, because these little changes like that you can make later. And once again, this is not going to be the most perfect setup in any kind of way. I want to make that perfectly clear, that this setup isn't going to be something that is going to be... It will be something nice to look at, but it's not going to be 100% perfect in any kind of way. There will be drift from the satellites, whether it be a little bit or a lot, but eventually they're not going to all be just dead perfect. So we're going to start our burn here. Looks like we only got 35 meters a second, a whole 35 meters a second change, which isn't bad, but at the same time, a little skeptical. So we got to keep our eye on our node here, which is basically the most important piece of information, at least right now, and I can't even get a perfect read on it because it's telling me all the unimportant things. So let's see, get this up to 35 degrees, that's all we need, and then we'll check the altitude afterwards. But the altitude on this isn't really going to be the main issue. Once again, the altitude is going to be a little off, like it is right now. You know, you can see this is not good work, if you want to call it that, and there will be some slight changes to it later. Now we need to get the next one, so we're going to get rid of this one right now, and we're going to do all the changes later. So this is going to be our second satellite. So RCS is off. Okay, good. I'm just making sure everything is like perfect. Otherwise, you know, I've had a few problems setting these things up in the past, and I just want to make sure everything is good. We just need to jettison this thing, and we'll move on with our next one. So, see you later. Once again, decoupling these things as well might screw it up a little bit. But once again, whoa, yeah. A little bit of a bump there. That's not a bad thing. Just happy little mistakes. So we'll flip back over, and then we're going to continue our burn and go up to 90 degrees. Otherwise, actually, you know what? I am going to wait on that one. We're going to wait until we come back around and we're about right here, maybe, and then do our 90-degree burn. So that is going to be a little bit later. And this will kind of keep... The altitude is going to change for all of these, obviously. So let's just do one orbit around. Once again, these things are going to get separated out a little bit. Things are going to change slightly. Not a lot, but, you know, they're not going to be... Well, once again, these aren't going to be perfect. So just give me a little bit of a break on that one. You can already tell right now they're already kind of separated out just a little bit. So I'm not too worried about separation. I don't really care so much about that. I care so much is having the orbits to be relatively perfect. So what we're going to do, we got to set up our next burn, and this one will be at 90 degrees off of the main orbit here. This is the main orbit that you want to set up, is the initial orbit that we were in before I set up the burn for this one, which we just launched, or well, we just jettisoned. We need to keep with this orbit and then do 90 degrees off of that. So you can see this is getting extended out there pretty far, and it looks like it wants to cancel that node for some reason. I won't let it. So we need to bring this way down. Once again, this is, wow, I got kind of lucky with this one too. That's kind of cool. Let's see what this is at. 86, so we need to bump it over a little bit, and maybe I'll bring it down a little bit more. 88 and 89. Come on, can I get a 90? And whoa, that wasn't good. I just changed something that I shouldn't have. Now I'm gonna just reset this real quick. So sorry, I'm gonna do it a little bit closer here, because our burn isn't. I kind of overestimated how much it was going to take to actually do these burns, so I'm going to do it a little bit closer to this initial point here. It shouldn't be so bad. Bring that back. Let's see, what's this at? Way too low. So setting these up is a little bit of a pain in the butt. That's one thing I will say. It isn't something that's just simple. It's not that simple, I should say. So bring this down, what do we got? 88. Bring it down a little bit more. We should be almost, yeah, we're past it already. So 90.3 is looking really good. Let's see, what can I do to, what is it? It just changed. Oh, 89.2. Bring this over. 89.5. We need 90. Now, once again, I don't follow these nodes 100%. I should mention that, and anybody who's setting these up, don't follow these 100%. That's the one thing I'm really always going to emphasize on. Sure, they are probably the best way to set up your navigation in this game, but sometimes they're a little bit wrong. And I don't mean to say that in a bad way. It has to more do with your estimated burn times and stuff like that. It really doesn't sometimes tell you the most effective burn, and you know, that can cause problems later. But it looks like we're gonna be pretty good here. Just bring this up. Once we hit 90, we're pretty much done with this burn. So let's see. Come on. Can I get 90? Kill the engines. There we go. So I'll use RCS to bump this back. There we go. Perfect. So once again, we got most of our network set up. And we're going to have to do one more orbit around. Now, I should have, the one thing I could say I should have is like, I should have done is at least kind of fix this to bring it down a little bit. But these things can always be fixed later. That's kind of my main emphasis on that. Turn this off. Did we throw this off in any kind of way? You know, and these will change too sometimes. As you do burns and stuff like that, it might change. It will change, I should say. And you can always bring it back. Just try not to veer too far away from the initial point, like, you know, 90 degrees or whatever it is that you decided to burn to. Like, this is a little bit under, which I'm okay with. It's not that bad. So, we're gonna jettison our second probe. I'm gonna flip this around. Let's see. I'm a little skeptical on which way I should release it, because chances are it's not going to be the right way. So I'm going to do it something like this here, just to yeah, no, I shouldn't do it that way. Let's see. I'm going to do it upside down. I think that's the way I did it before, towards retrograde. We don't need to burn retrograde right now. So I think that will be the best way. And the best part about this is if you look, is I'm really not using a lot of fuel. And that's kind of the main, kind of best part about this, is it's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared, in my opinion. Some people will disagree, but I would rather have too much fuel than not enough. In any day. So let's just flip this around. I'm probably going to bump the other satellite here a little bit. Yeah, I think I did. Whoopsies. I'll see you later. Safe trip. Enjoy your stay, or whatever it is that you might be doing. So our next one, we're going to have to do another orbit around, and I'm going to set up the burn right now. But what we need to do is get it to... oh my god. I hate that. Every time you try to set up your burns, and... let's see. Oh god, wrong one. There we go. Let's... No, it's annoying when you're trying to set up your burn and it does this. It's like, how am I supposed to click that? Is this some kind of new game that they added to Kerbal Space Program? Okay, so we need to bring this over to 135, if I'm not mistaken. Something like that. 135, I believe it is. Bring this back up. There we go. The trick is you kind of want to keep it right here, but chances are it's going to veer off a little bit. So 135, and that will be our last orbit, or our last satellite we get into orbit here. So just bring this down a little bit more, and then we got to bring it in too. So yeah, you can already see we passed it just a little bit, and just bring it back up. See, it's really hard to get these things just dead on perfect sometimes. It really does cause some problems with the nodes, and it's just funky, and it just doesn't work right sometimes. The nodes are a little bit too sensitive. That's all I gotta say. Some people were saying, you know, you can use these in reverse, like you can push it in, and I know that you can push these in. It's just that with certain things like this, I mean, if you look at how much we actually need to do as far as like a burn, it's not very much. So having something that accurate, and you only have to, you're having something this accurate, and only being able to do this much of a burn really does make a big problems later. And this thing is really flying away from us. That's one thing I gotta say too. So let's do our one orbit here. Now hopefully when we come back around, this thing isn't like inside of our ship. Now I think I screwed it up a little bit by doing by bumping it. I think I may have bumped it off of its axis a little bit, or I mean its inclination that it's at, by a little bit, because you can tell we're a little bit ahead of it right now. So I don't know what I did, but I hope I didn't screw it up in any kind of way. But yeah, we are getting pretty close. It doesn't say the separation right now, but I think we are really close to it. You can see our other satellites too. They're already kind of showing themselves. You can see that there's one here. I don't know which one that is. It might be this one. Actually, I do think it is that one, but we're a little bit ahead of or the satellite is a little bit ahead of us, so that's kind of a good thing. So we're going to do our last burn here. Let's see. It says we got 17 hours until our burn. It's a little... I think I set it up and then went through the nodes, so whatever. As long as the inclination is correct, that should be all that really matters. There we go. There we go. Perfect. It's at 35. Now some of you might be wondering, okay, I got this big gap here between this and the center here. What am I going to do to correct that? Well, I will be fixing that very shortly. What we need to do, oh, yeah, shut that down. We need to jettison this. There we go. So I left these on here. We don't need these. That's the one thing I think I should emphasize is we just didn't need those, and I ended up putting them on there for almost no reason whatsoever. So I'm going to get this thing out of here, get it away from the orbit, get it away from everything. And what better way should I get it away than crash it into Minmus? So I'm going to switch off here, switch craft. Where is the other one? Where's our craft at? The big craft that I just shot away from this satellite? Don't see it. Whatever. Okay, so the main thing we need to concern ourselves with right now, and I think what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to switch to this craft here. This is our second one we launched. Second to our first. And we didn't change craft. I've seen this happen before. Really weird stuff. Yeah, let me switch back. Switch to that one. Otherwise, we did switch and I just didn't realize it. I don't know. Alright, yeah, so here we go. We gotta set this as a target, and we gotta make sure that our inclination doesn't change, which our inclination is off right now by a little bit. So all we have is an ion engine right now to orientate ourselves. So, well, I should say to push ourselves in any direction as a means of thrust. So we need to, one, make sure that this thing is actually lined up the best as it possibly can with this point here, which it seems like it is pretty well lined up with the center. There is a little bit of a gap I can see. It's leaning more towards this side than it is that one, which will be fixed. But right now we need to work on our altitude. So right now it's at 499 by, like, I don't know, yeah, 516. So what we need to do, basically we have our ion engine. We just need to bring this over a little bit. So I think I just activated this engine. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, we did. So we need to bring this down, I should say, a little bit, and that will be kind of the end of at least fixing the altitude a little bit. So these aren't going to be perfect. Once again, I should mention that and emphasize on that. If you're looking for absolute perfect, it's not going to be on this video. If you want close to perfect or almost like perfect, then I can give you that. That's about the best I can do for you with this game. If you're going to be overly critical of it, then there's not much I can actually do to help you with that. So let's see. We need to do a burn somewhere around this point, and this right here, doing a burn up here, it's going to change your direction as far as either sending your orbit off this way or this way. And you know, same thing with this side. If you increase it over on this side, it's gonna bring it over on this side. So I don't want to get overly technical with you guys, because the one thing I do get annoyed with is people tend to confuse the terminology with this game as if other people invented it. So I am going to try to be as lenient on that as I possibly can. We don't have to do much of a burn to correct it to the way I want it to. I'm just trying to, I'm setting that up that node more so to really see where we need to do our burn. I'm going to be fixing the inclination after, let's see, hold on, if I were to do something like this, okay, it would always be right here. That's exactly what I needed. So I think I'm gonna leave this node here, but I'm just not gonna obviously do yeah, I'm not gonna be doing that. So just have this node as kind of like a guideline. And that's one of the major things too, is most of these nodes are just guidelines for me, guys. I really do understand kind of like I understand what I'm doing. It's just that, you know, with certain things you really do need kind of like a set point to know exactly what you're doing and when you need to do it. And that's kind of the major thing. So you can see that this thing is off just by a bit. And I'm honestly not going to have to do much of a burn. I mean, I just gotta tap it here and fix it, and that's about it. There we go. It's perfectly lined up. That's all we had to do, just to make it lined up. So now to fix our inclination on this side isn't going to take much. You know, once again, if you guys get that and you understand what I just did there, you know, on this side it should be fairly lined up. Sometimes it's not, which bringing it up only requires you to do almost the exact same thing on this side, and you just keep doing it until you bring it up the right way. So it really isn't that much of a big deal. But to bring up this inclination, all we have to do is do a burn right here. And let's see, this is just got to go over by 1. So that's like nothing. I mean, you're talking like less than a meter per second burn here. Yeah, you can see, I mean, I'm pretty well lined up as it is right now, and I'm just gonna leave it here. But once we get down there to do this burn, it really isn't gonna change much. You know, to line it up, I will line it up on this side off camera probably. It is a little bit underneath the orbit of the main one, but I'll be able to fix that very shortly. 500 by 499. Alright, there we go. I think, no, I didn't. I thought I passed the node, but I didn't. Let's see. Just bring that down. Now these burns, like, once again, you can do it like before or afterwards. I mean, I'm only correcting it by a tiny amount. See, that's basically all I needed. Okay, see, I already overshot it. So 255, bring it over. I think it's going to be somewhere around here. And once again, you're going to have to fix your orbit after you do these things as well. So it's always a constant fight with setting these things up. This is kind of why I didn't really want to do a super in-depth video of doing this. So I might have to end up fixing our initial satellite a little bit. It looks like it's a little bit higher than what I want it. So yeah, guys, this is kind of what I had to go through setting up all of these. I mean, when it comes down to the moon one, the one around Kerbin, and the one that's in orbit around, well, the one that is now in orbit around Minmus. It's really just a matter of trial and error and constantly fixing and refixing and fixing and refixing and just going through everything and just making sure everything lines up and everything is in the way that you want it to be. So let's see, this is at 98. I'm just gonna do this one little burn, and then I will let you guys go and do this yourselves. It's amazingly hard, and it's actually somewhat satisfying once you get it perfectly set up, the orbits, you get everything kind of the way you want it to be, and you feel satisfied in the way it looks. It is strangely satisfying. So let's see. We're at 288 right here, and this side is at 298. We just need to bring this up. Oh god. Yeah, that was me frantically spamming the key to slow down because I obviously hit... Yeah, it was just craziness. Now, I hope I'm not boring you guys. I know this is a little bit boring, and I would even admit it myself that I find this stuff to be a little bit boring, but it's kind of one of those things that I really feel like I should show since you guys really don't know how. If you guys don't know how, now you kind of know, or you at least have a general idea on how to set these things up. It's a lot of understanding what you're doing with the nav ball and what you're doing in space. And for those of you who are, you know, somewhat not very skilled with this game, I would recommend it because of the fact that it really does give you an idea on how to really understand what you're doing when you use the nav ball and, you know, everything else. I think, yeah, see, I was right. This thing is off by a little bit, but I'll just do an orbit around to fix that. It really gives you a general... Whoa. It really gives you a really well-rounded generalization of how to understand what you're doing with the nav ball. And you can see that this one isn't really lined up with the rest of them that well. You know, it isn't going to be perfect, like I said. It's just not going to be. It just doesn't happen. You know, especially when you're setting it up manually. Once again, you know, if you had MechJeb, I'm sure MechJeb could do it for you very easily. And you probably wouldn't even have to go through this much work. So, it's just kind of, you know, you give and take. But, you know, for right now, I'm going to do my burn here. And after that, then I will let you guys go and do it yourself. I kind of been running on a little bit, but I'm sorry about that. Some of you guys like my ramblings, there we go. So we'll bring this down. Why isn't it going down? Oh yeah, that's right. You just gotta do that. Yeah, there we go. So bring this down a little bit. Whoa, there we go. That's looking really good, actually. So anyways, guys, you know, thank you for watching. If you like what you see here, subscribe. There's always more to come. And, yeah, I will see you next time.